Still morning, so good morning everybody. I'm Mike Dickinson, I'm the manager of the Skills and Simulation Unit at Blackpool.
And I'm Mark, I'm his sim lead, so I have to work with him.
Like most managers, I keep an eye on budgets and things like that. And one of the things we got challenged with is looking at how we can develop and improve multidisciplinary learning within the whole of the surgical teams. We had a number of never events occurring and things like that. We have basic laparoscopic trainers, the box systems and things like that to try and develop individual skills. But one of the things that we wanted to try and do is encompass the whole team around surgical procedures and things like that. We had an old sim mom that was out of warranty, out of date, and it was just sat there. So what we thought about doing was converting this into a laparoscopic training system. So that rather than just having a box to train on, we had a full body manikin. The unit retained its purposes for as far as functionality goes. It will still bleed, it will still breathe and blink, so you can still do all the anaesthetic side of things as well if you wanted to. And what we did, Mark and I sort of looked at thought, well, how can we challenge the surgeon, because that would be the biggest thing. If we were going to take this into theatre, how do we engage the surgeon and keep them engaged with it as well as everybody else in the team? Working with a company, Limbs and Things, they gave us one of their pelvis things which they helped develop SimMom in the first place, and it fitted in quite nicely into the full body simulator.
That's that bit.
And it's literally the old SimMom, and it just slotted in quite easily with minimal effort. So what we've now got capability is going up into a theatre, testing the full theatre team, putting them through procedures. We can actually make a bleeding point occur if we want to during the procedure that they're doing. As of yet, we're just getting the surgeons on board. Any of you, are there any surgeons in the room? Oh, well, we know that surgeons are difficult to crack and get them to engage. Okay, anaesthetists tend to be a bit more...
Any orthopaedic surgeons in the room?
Yes. Yeah, well, my case rests, Your Honour. But what we want to try and do is we want to try and utilise this, A, to reduce the number of never events that are occurring, B, to increase the amount of human factor training with multidisciplinary teams, so we're actually challenging the whole of the theatre team. And C, it's utilising old equipment. Everybody's into recycling and developing these days, and if you've got old bits of kit and things like that, don't just put them in under the shelf or don't just dispose of them. We know how difficult it is to dispose of stuff sometimes. Try and think outside the box, think about how you can modify it, things like that. I wouldn't suggest doing anything with things that are still in warranty. Okay, because if you start pushing pipes where they're not supposed to go and things like that, then you've got problems. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions at all?
What procedures have you targeted to simulate that?
Right, we can do various gynae procedures. We can do cyst, ectopic pregnancies. There's a couple of other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, but we've also got pads that we can put into the abdominal section here for doing cholecystectomy, laparoscopic cholecystectomy. There's no retrograde appendix, isn't there? The procedure that can be done. So we can engage the surgeon, get them concentrating on something. Okay. The one thing you can't do with it is you can't use any diathermy and things like that, because heat and plastic don't really melt and all the alarms start going off and things like that. So you've got to use the old-fashioned techniques of cut and tie, so to speak, which is good for teaching laparoscopic skills.
But you can sort of incorporate sort of crisis management. If you get a gradual ooze developing during laparoscopic surgery, you can utilise the existing equipment to make it bleed internally. It makes a mess, but it looks quite realistic when you're using the scope. And just, it's not about task training, it's literally about team training, but you're using the natural team that would be in theatre and sort of doing the human factors around it.
It's great giving the surgeons and the anaesthetists arguing about why these pressure dropping. What have you given? Well, I'm not giving anything. Well, they're bleeding. Well, why they bleed? Why they bleed? Well, I can't see you bleed. And it's really interesting to see how some of the nurses will interact with that as well, and some of the ODPs will interact with it as well.
It's that, you know, we emphasise people being able to challenge people for safety, and that's one of the big things that we're trying to do with this sort of training, is that any member of the theatre team can speak up and not be intimidated by a surgeon.
Or an anaesthetist. I'll be PC.
Is that okay?
Okay.
No more questions?
Thank
you.
Thank you.